Hello. Hi, how you going? Let me just get this phone sorted. There we are. Hope you're all well. It's a bit windy here in Melbourne. Thanks for watching. And so my name's Monika 𝐵𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐵 and I'm the manager of this group. I don't know what you'd call it. The administrator, the person that accepts or rejects. So this morning, I just thought I'd come on because I put a call out for questions in terms of building your practice. And so I've received a number of questions on various different topics, which I'll go through today to assist you to grow your practice or to give you, I guess, another perspective on things that you can digest, process, and so on and so forth. So if you're here, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. Hey Philippa, thanks so much for watching. So today we're going to be covering a bit of tech in terms of technology. We're going to be covering, I've got some questions about programs and about how to structure those programs and about pricing. So I've got quite a lot to get through. I have to jump off at before 11. So we'll see how we go for time because I've got I've got a full day of clients today. But I wanted to come on because I didn't want to leave those questions unanswered, particularly when I answered them. So let's get started. And also, if you've got any comments or questions, please feel free to put them in the comments here, or send me a message or an email at Monika with a K at hypnolab.com.au. Hi Lee, good morning to you too. So where's everyone coming from? I know Lee, you're in Australia, you're in Melbourne. Philippa, I think you're from the UK, aren't you? Just let me know where you're watching from, and I'll get into these questions. So the question I got about technology was through Messenger, so I'm not going to mention their name, and it was basically a question about what camera do I use to record things. This I'm recording on my iPhone 10, so the quality is pretty good, I think. So it's just an iPhone 10 and it's frontward facing, the front camera, so I'm not using the back. I think the back perhaps has better maybe clarity, I think. But this is just simple iPhone, and I've recorded courses and things like that on here before, programs, and pretty much all of my YouTube channel is recorded from my phone. I have used a camera before, but the setup and the lighting and the angle and the tripod and everything else, it's too much. So I'd rather get something out there quickly and get it done and sorted and with ease, rather than thinking about cameras and what wall and the shadows there, and then it's too much and too overwhelming. Just get out there, say what needs to be said, upload it and get it done. And I find my phone the easy way to do that. So, oh, thank you, Philippa. I wanted to support you, seeing as I'm up late. Night owl. And Philippa's from London. Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for being up late with Monika. So that's it. So I use my phone as a camera. In time, I may hook up. I've got a better camera. I might hook that up with to my computer. So instead of the desktop camera, I use an actual camera, but I'm still working out in terms of what software and cables that I need to make that happen, because I know that will give a much clearer and crisper video or view. I know that when I'm doing Zoom calls, it can be quite grainy and it can be a bit patchy and things like that, and it'd also be nice to record from my desktop as well, instead of always using the camera. So let's move on. There's lots to get into today. So the next question is about social media platforms. So obviously I'm on Facebook. Facebook is where I do a lot of my lives, where I do a lot of where I share a lot of content. And I do that because my Facebook friends tend to be a lot of other therapists, a lot of other coaches, healers and are in that kind of therapy feel, and that's the space where I feel comfortable to share what I'm doing, what I'm up to, new tricks, you know, new resources and things like that that I get excited about. So that's the main platform that I use for that. I also have a Instagram account, which I hardly ever use. It's like once in a blue moon. Maybe I'll post once every 6 months. On Instagram, YouTube is, I've got quite a few videos on YouTube. That's a really, really good resource to be able to share content. It's also a really great place for you to be able to share your philosophy on things. So what do I mean by philosophy? So every therapist, you know, every coach will have their own will have their own kind of therapy philosophy on how they believe transformation and healing takes place. So I'm not talking about modalities necessarily, but in terms of how, you know, how you feel or how you know the world to be, how you know illness turns up, and how you know it can also be restored. You know, health can be restored. So for instance, for me, I use the 4 doors of anxiety because I'm an anxiety specialist. So I talk about anxiety being present psychologically, anxiety being present physically within your actual body, anxiety being present in the environment, in your environment around you, and also at a spiritual level too. Okay, so that's my philosophy. That's my professional philosophy on anxiety. And so through the 4 doors model, I am able to explain how anxiety arises, how you go into that space of anxiety, and like a door, how you actually leave it from that space as well. So how do you leave that psychological anxiety behind? How do you leave that physical anxiety behind, and environmental and spiritual as well? And so that's, yeah, and so I find that YouTube is a really great place for you to be able to express that, and for your potential, you know, clients to get a real idea on what that philosophy is, how you work, how you present, present, and that is much deeper than just a website, you know, or a picture. So I don't know about you, but you know, have you ever maybe gone on someone's website and you've seen a photo and you're like, oh wow, they flash. You know, it's like, oh, I like that. Everything's really spick, you know, really, really polished and everything like that. And then maybe you see a video and you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that at all. That's a very different picture, very different, you know, to what's being portrayed on the website. So I'm a big fan of YouTube, and it's a free platform that goes out into the world. So I highly recommend that. What else? What else am I on? I think they're the main ones. Facebook, YouTube, they're my biggest. Instagram, yeah. I don't have a Twitter account. That's all I can think of right now. So I hope that helps you. Philip says you're doing a fantastic job with your lives. Well, thank you very much. It's been, you know, 2 to 3 years in the making. You should have seen my earlier ones. There are a lot more ums. I still a lot now, but there you go. I just said it again. But it was a lot more frequent before. Now I'm in the role of things. So Pinterest, I think I may have an account, but I don't think I've ever posted anything. So I don't do Pinterest. No, I'm a firm believer of doing those platforms really well that you can actually dedicate to. So, you know, Facebook I can do really well because I can just jump on and do this live. I've got, you know, the group, I've got, you know, a business page and profile, and that's all pretty set up, you know, I think pretty well. LinkedIn, that's the other one I'm on, LinkedIn, yeah. So I've got a pretty good page set up on LinkedIn that works kind of like a website as well. So LinkedIn as well, because I do work with professionals. So that having that element there is having a platform where your potential clients is essential, right? So working with professionals that aren't necessarily therapists. Some are, some aren't. But having those professionals there that are experiencing or dealing with anxiety at the moment is, is my connection to the platform. Okay, so moving on. I hope I've given everything there. Just checking some feedback. So Lee said a green screen and auto white balance is ideal. Yeah, I don't have a green screen. It's more important to have good sound, and the Rode Wireless is great value for money. I just got a Blue Yeti. It's massive. Let me show you. Can you see that? It's huge. It's like the size of my head. Yeah, so I got a Blue Yeti mic. It's fantastic. My son was so jealous. My son's 9 and he follows all the influencers on YouTube. And so they must have been speaking about this, Blue Yeti mic, and as soon as I unwrapped it and opened, he's like, "Oh, I've wanted one of those." So he was a bit jealous. All right, so let's move on. Okay, we've got some really good stuff to get into. Programs and pricing. Programs and pricing. Okay. Lee says, if our promise is real and we get them, flash photos are of little use. Yeah, true. Look, it's true, but we do need to have a presence. So however they are, however you present your photos, just put your photos out there. Yes, we do need a presence, and we do need to be out there. But in terms of quality, that's debatable. Our industry, or people are changing with the times, and so what was looked on as favourable maybe 10 years ago, being very polished and clear and professional speaking and everything like that, that is becoming less desired or less sought after, and what we're finding is that also people now actually gravitating towards more of the real life stuff. People don't speak in real life how speakers speak on stage. They don't. Like we're having a conversation here, one-sided conversation, albeit you guys are writing. So it's a little bit more casual, and that's what people are recognizing that they like. They feel more settled and sorted. Nessa says, people like real. Absolutely. And we're kind of ebbing and flowing into that kind of state as a community, as humanity. We are changing and evolving our likes and our dislikes, and what repels us and what we are drawn to. That global consciousness is also changing, particularly with the events that are occurring around. And so naturally we're going to flow and ebb and flow in different ways and want different things in the future. So, in maybe 20 years time, what we're doing here is maybe not going to be, maybe that's not going to be the thing. Maybe we're just going to be all communicating, energetically, right? But for now, this is what's being sought after and appreciated and liked, and feels good and feels comfortable. Yeah. So Lee says, mastering one or two areas over dabbling has received the best outcomes from me. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've heard that saying, something about master of none, doing all things, master of none. Yeah, absolutely. And this is why I'm a big fan of niching as well. I can do a lot of things, but I'm positioning myself as that anxiety relief expert. Whether it's with that, whether it's with an adolescent, or whether it's with an adult, or whether it's with, a business owner or a therapist, I'm still positioning myself as that anxiety relief therapist. Wonderful. Yes, and Lee, yeah, looking at the camera with a smile is important, and teeth, yeah. Hence why I'm getting my teeth fixed, getting them a bit straightened. All right, look. Sorry, I've dabbled. I've gone a bit off track. So the next thing the next question Phil asked in the post yesterday was about how do you know when you're charging the right amount? How do you know when you're charging the right amount? for your therapy programs? And when does it become greedy to charge? Good questions. Fantastic. So let's deal with that first part. How do you know when you're charging the right amount? So often, I know Phil's not a new therapist. Phil's quite experienced and has an established practice. And I know that, this question comes up when you're fresh out of therapy school. But you know what? It comes up at every single stage of growth. So this question indicates, without even going into the question, where Phil's at. Yeah? In a state of growth, in a state of transition, in a state of, I have this now, but how far can I take it? Or should I be staying here? Or how can I move over here a little bit more? So it's a transition question. Okay, so I'm not going to answer it in terms of that person straight out of therapy school. I'm going to answer it for Phil where he's at now. And I can only base it on my experience, okay? I can't say that this is the right way. I can only give you my perspective. When you will know that you are charging the right amount in a few ways. When you decide to. So I'm going to charge $200 a session. Yep, and that's the right amount for me. Decision done. Yep, so that's one way. Another way is to decide energetically what feels good, okay? Because we know that we make decisions on feeling, don't we? Like as therapists, we can say, yes, no, I made an informed decision. I made a decision based on the facts and everything like that. But ultimately, you're going to go off your gut. So do that. Go off your gut. And you guys can do this too, right? So if you start low, so say you're starting, at $100 a session, okay? Which I think is very low for a session. Starting at $100 and just feel how that feels. And for some of you might go, yeah, it's all right, I'll take $100 an hour, easy, cool. And for others, it's like, no, really, only $100? So move it up. 150. Okay, that's getting a bit better. How does that feel in your body energetically? Feels okay. It's not really like, yeah, over the moon, great, but how does it feel? Yeah? And then move it up to 200. Now it's probably like, oh, I'm getting a little bit buzzy. I'm like, oh, $200 a session. Oh, all right. No, I'm glad now we're getting somewhere. Yeah, now it's like, that's more like it. Yeah? Then maybe move it up to 250. And then you're like, no, there's no way I can charge 250. No, all right, so bring it back down. Maybe go 220. Oh, 220, okay. All right, it feels good, like 220 is awesome. I'm like, all right, ready to go. But also it scares me a little bit too. That is the ideal point, right? That's the ideal point where you feel like it's a value exchange that feels good for you, yeah. That feels good for you on the majority, but is also a little bit of a stretch, where you kind of like going, oh my God, really? Are they really going to give me $220? Okay, yeah. So it's got to be a little bit of a stretch for you, okay? Because what that does when it's a stretch, that stretches you then to make sure to keep you accountable that you are giving $220 worth of value to that client and in that session. Yeah? Is this making sense to everyone? When you when you decide on a price that is a bit of a stretch for you, when you feel that it's like it's giving you those butterflies and you're like, oh, yeah, when you're getting a bit of a rise, thank you, Nessa. Thank you, honey. When it's giving you that bit of a rise, then that is where your work is exciting, it's engaging, but also you are focused on that client to give them that 220 plus value in that session. Okay, so for me, that is the right amount for me and how I work. And so another thing is also you can justify a price that you feel is energetically congruent with you, okay? But the market may not be prepared to pay for it, okay? I'll give you an example. Say you're working with someone who's addicted to cocaine and they've got a $200 a day habit, yeah? You know you can help them, you know, with that addiction, and it'll only take you one session, right? Now, based on their, you know, $1,000 plus a week addiction, you say, well, what's $2,000? That's only 2 weeks worth of cocaine use. And, you know, over a year, they're saving bucket loads, 50 grand. So 2,000, that's justified, yeah? Like in that cognitive kind of plus minus figures wise, that makes sense. You're saving them 50 grand, yeah, from that one session, okay? But if you were to put that to them, and the majority of the market is just not willing to pay that for one session, yeah, they're not. Because they're going to go, but next door, down the road, they can do it for $500. Is this making sense? So the market will also dictate to you what they're willing to pay for your goods and services. You can say that it's fantastic and it's the best program in the whole world, but the market will dictate what they're willing to pay you. Yeah? I've gotten off calls, yeah, where I've given so much value and they've been prepared to pay, you know, XYZ, but then they've come back and they've gone, you know what, like, Monika, I have gotten so much value from that session, but in an ongoing way, I can't. I'm sorry, it's just too expensive. And this is people who are employed, who don't have dependents, who don't have mortgages, who on paper can afford it, but are like, no, it's just not. They're just not willing to pay for it, which is all fine. It's all good, yeah. And then on the other hand, I've had clients who are unemployed, you know, who are young, who are unemployed, who are not working, not studying, and who have paid for my programs upfront in full. So it's about what is your market willing to part with, and the value that they see in your programs. And this is going to be variation as well. It's going to be a variation across the board. And so this is why it's really important to have your marketing and your marketing languaged in a niche way. And I'm not saying that you have to niche and exclude people, but in terms of your marketing, in terms of your web copy, in terms of the way that you present yourself and what you're talking about, to be very specific so that you are, so that the people who are listening are your ideal clients. So let's read some comments. So Ness says, yes, I prefer a niche. I can give 100% and deep dive. Absolutely. Philippa says, what is your niche? Nessa says, depression, PSD and anxiety. And combining Chinese medicine and acupuncture with hypnotherapy. Yes, Nessa is a star practitioner. So Philippa says, my energy is at the same stretch of Tony Robbins, $1 million. Good on you. Wonderful. Okay, so I hope Phil, that's a clarification for you in terms of what is the right amount. It's the right amount what you feel is, you know, internally congruent with you and the value that you can bring. And then also it's also the market and what they're prepared to pay, because it can be value. It can be over and beyond, but there is, you know, there may be a limit to what the general public or your niche are willing to pay for your services. And the second part of that is, when does it become greedy to charge more? So which is a fair call. That's a fair question. When does it become greedy to charge more? So you will know that when you are getting that feedback from your clients that they are not getting the value that they paid for. I'll say that again. You'll know when it becomes greedy to charge more when your clients give you the feedback that it wasn't worth it. because it means that you haven't filled. So you've gotten that, you've set your price and you haven't delivered value for that price. So you're just increasing it just for the sake of it. And the thing is that this is going to be a test and measure thing for you. Okay? Being greedy to charge more indicates that you're not focused on your client outcomes. You're not focused on client delivery. You're not focused on what you you don't have that higher picture on, what is it that you actually want to do with the income that you do receive. Because the thing is that when you feel fulfilled with what you're doing and you feel fulfilled with the dollars that you are getting, then charging more and everything, it's not as important on the grander scale. Yeah. And this year has been, and last year has been one of those years where I've said to myself over and over again, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Okay. So, and it's the same with, pricing your programs and things like that. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. It has to be congruent with you and your global vision of what you want for yourself, and also your global vision for your clients and what they want for themselves. And there's a perfect match there. And there's also that testing and measuring in terms of sometimes maybe you do go, it's like, oh, I'm going to put an extra 500 on here. Every single client has said yes. And so if 10 out of 10 has been a conversion, then that tells me I'm too cheap. I'm going to put it up there, right? And so maybe that is an indicator that you need to put up your prices. Yeah. But when you're getting to that kind of, only 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10, that's when you're hitting that kind of resistance. And there you need to look at how much value you're actually putting into those programs to justify that increase. Ness says, great advice. Thank you, sweetie. Lee, better to under promise and over deliver. I agree with the income decision, asking how much value will we give. Yeah. So I always look at, how much value am I putting into my programs, and listening to what the clients are telling me about those programs too. Because, when I hear my clients say, and this is direct quotes, wow, Monika, that was like 10 therapy sessions in one. That was like 10 counseling sessions in that one session. So in my initial session, it's a double session. So it's an assessment. It's, we go through a lot of diagnostic tools. They understand a lot of things about themselves, about the problem, how it arises, and it's very, very comprehensive. And so that's why I get that response. That's like 10 therapy sessions, because that's what it would have taken to get all of those answers. So I'm just plugging in my phone. Power. There we go. And another one said to me, she said, oh, Monika, the 3 sessions that I've had with you, I got more out of the 6 months of sexual abuse counselling that I went through. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, when those responses really hit you, that was like, for me, that's what it did for me. So I absolutely knew at that point that the value that I was giving in my sessions was value, and is value. Yeah, when you keep getting those kinds of responses, and also when they want to continue working with you. Yeah, when they want to continue working with you after you've helped them resolve that initial problem, and they want to help, they want your help to help them grow even further and beyond in a positive direction. That's feedback to you that what you're doing is great. Yeah. That what you're doing is of value, that you're truly supporting them, nurturing them, and that they feel, most importantly, okay, this is above all, they feel that you've got their back no matter what, that you care about them. Forget the money, forget anything else. What clients want to know from you, feel, sense, understand, is that you've got their back. Out of all the shitty people in their life, and all the shitty things that have happened to them, they want to know that someone is there for them. And I can hand on heart say that yes, I am that person, because that's why after a 3-month program, they go and buy another 3 months. Or after 6 months, they go buy another 6 months. Or after 8 weeks, they go, yep, I want to see you monthly now for the next year. Okay? So when you are focused on caring, when you're focused on doing what you do really well, okay, then the money becomes less of a problem. Less of a problem, less of an issue, less of a concern, less of a focal point. But if you are not happy in your practice, if you are not fulfilled in your practice, then money becomes kind of like a default easy way to go, well, if I'm not happy here, at least I can be happy with what I'm making. All right, find the gold in your practice and in your therapy. So thank you everyone for your feedback. I really, really appreciate it, because you know, I'm only speaking from experience, and I know that for a lot of you it's not going to resonate, and it's like, yeah, she doesn't know what she's on about. But for a lot of you, I can see that this is resonating. So I really, really appreciate your feedback and your comments. So Nessa says, love your authenticity. Thank you. I love you too. Music to our ears. Bravo. Thank you. Lee says, beautiful. Thank you. And that is the gold there. Yes, that's right. That's right, Lee. So, good. Thank you so much. Philip says, awesome. Nessa says, caring and connection is paramount. Absolutely. Absolutely. So Dennis O'Hara wrote a book on hope in counselling. And that really is like the foundations of therapy, is that when you can provide a space where you can help client generate hope for the future, for themselves, that is the gold right there. That is the gold right there. Hope. Okay. So Lee says, when we provide value, the money comes in as a consequence. Yeah, absolutely. But I think as a distinction too, in the very beginning, when you maybe just starting out, or where you haven't kind of gotten the runs on the board yet, money is important at a focal point, because you're in that scarcity mode. Yeah, so if you think of, you know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, down the bottom is like that your primary needs need to be taken care of first. Yeah, so our primary needs are food on the table, you know, you're paying a rent or mortgage, you know, your car payments, and you know, your medical bills, all the real basic needs. And I know for some therapists, you know, whether you're fresh out of therapy school, or whether you are doing maybe a side business or whatever, you know, maybe not generating the income that you want out of your therapy business, you can be in that state of survival still, yeah, where your focus is on money, just as a natural default, because it's money that buys the food, it's money that you know, makes that mortgage repayment. So that's not to hold anything against you. That's just the way that it is in the beginning. Okay, so it's a natural flow and evolution. When you get money coming in regularly, that will all change. That will all change, and then you can kind of relax and go, oh, all right, so I've got money coming in. So what is it that I want to do now? Oh, I want to write a book, or I want to go do maybe a course, or maybe I want to learn a whole nother modality and add it. Yeah, then you've got that flexibility, and you've got that, you can relax and then do whatever it is that you feel more called to do. But essentially in that first early beginning stage, it's like you've got to put food on the table. Yeah, and maybe that means doing some therapy sessions that you don't want to do. It's not the greatest, but it's the stepping stone that's needed and required. I know initially I was going to do quit smoking sessions, and it never resonated with me. Like it's an area I'm like you know, like my background's in social welfare and trauma and you know, homelessness and things, and so quit smoking is kind of like, it just didn't gel. And in that time, you know, I started working with some other clients and you know, secured a few other contracts, and As some of you are aware, I had a contract with Helen Midas at HypnoFit. And so I didn't have to quit smoking. I still did it as part of my role, but I didn't have to kind of, you know, use that space to get kind of like the quick win. But, you know, for some of you that might be the case in order to kind of get yourself afloat, get yourself to a stage where you've got regular income coming in so that you can get out of that scarcity mode and then move into like okay, I'm good now, I'm settled, I'm sorted. What's next for me? What would I actually like to do? What's going to be more enjoyable for me now? Yeah, and then you can look at those projects that really inspire you, that really lights you up, that brings meaning to yourself, that brings meaning to your industry, you know, to your work, maybe to your family, maybe to your community. Yeah, and that's a really, really good place to work from. Yeah. All right, well, wonderful. So Nessa says, have to go. Loving your lives. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Nessa, for being here. Thank you. Bye. All right, so let's move on. So we've talked about pricing, and I've given you a lot there to think about in terms of your pricing, and in terms of, you know, greed to charge more. I think if you remove that greed, that word greed, and add in value, where you're always striving to add more value so that you can charge more, I think that's totally congruent. Yeah, it's totally good. So yeah. All right, so in terms of, so I've got another 10 minutes or so. So Chantal asked about building programs. So we'll have a chat about that now. So this is a really, really big topic. I'm just gonna have a bit of a sip. So let me know, while I'm having a sip, let me know what has been resonating with you the most. What, not just what's been resonating, but what further questions do you have now as a result of hearing this? You know, what's stirring within you to go, oh yeah, I need to know more about that. If you can type that in, that'd be awesome. Wonderful. So Chantal asked about building programs in terms of start to finish, okay, which is a huge question. This is a huge question in itself. So the question is there a track record of the modalities to use first and what to wrap up with and how much homework, etc.? So this is a really, really huge, big question. And Chantal, if you're watching this, what I would say is get in touch with me, because I'd love to talk to you specifically about what this means for you in terms of your program specifically, because everyone's going to be different. So all I can do is talk in terms of general programs and the programs that I've put into place in my business and in my practice. So I can only talk in general terms. So please, if you're watching this, just get on the blower. Get on the phone with me, and I will book a time, a complimentary time, and I'm more than happy to talk to you about your specific programs. But in terms of generally speaking, how I've built programs myself and the journey of client of program building is to actually put the program together after I've already been running it. Okay, so the finishing touch and the bow tie and the name and the everything and the transformation and blah, 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 that has all come together after I've already had the moving parts within the program. So for instance, in an anxiety program, I'll have an initial assessment, which I'll do an unpack of all the intricate details, yeah, of history and concerns and patterns of behaviour and things like that. I'll do emotional release. I might do a phobia bust, yeah, phobia cure if that's what they need. I'll do future pacing and goal setting. But all of that didn't come first. Like I didn't go, yep, this is what I'll do first, and then I'll, sell that. I didn't actually do that. What I had was I worked out what moving parts, what modalities, what intervention strategies, what, were most likely needed. I saw a pattern in my clients. And in the clients that I was working with, in terms of what they needed and what they were presenting with. So, for instance, the clients that I work with, they more often than not have comorbidity of issues. So they've got more than just one thing. So they've got panic, but they've also got generalized anxiety, and then maybe they've got social phobia, and then public speaking might be an issue, right? And then they've got fear of rats. Okay, so there's like a whole, and so I will need to adapt my program to fit each of those concerning things. So the client may say, well, you know what, the fear of rats, like that's just is, and that doesn't really bother me. I've got it, but that's not something that I need to work with. So we won't include that if that's not what they want to do. So get the moving parts working and making sure that you're competent in your skills. Competence is good. Yeah, you need to be good. You need to be the good therapist. So make sure that you've got those competencies going first, whether you're doing anxiety, whether you're doing quit smoking, whether you're doing pain relief or whatever. Get really good at doing that one thing, okay? Get really good at doing that one thing, and advertise for that one thing. Talk about that one thing. Know that one thing inside and out, okay? And then then you can actually build a program around it, okay? So the pink elephant in the room here, and this is where I contradict myself, is you see the gurus and you see business, coaches, and they say, sell it first and then build it later. Have you ever heard that? Sell it first and then build it later. Sell it to everyone and then on the back end build it. So how that is possible, and how, yes, that's a great idea, is when you are already experienced and you have all of those moving parts in working order, right? So, for instance, I can tomorrow, or even today, say, hey, I've got a new anxiety program. Yep. Who wants in? Who wants it? I can do this, I can do phobia cure, I can do, fear of heights, I can do generalized anxiety, who wants it? And you get this, and this technique. I could post that out tomorrow, or, email or whatever, and get a response, okay? Because I've already done it. It's already there. All that is marketing, All that is marketing. I'm putting a bow on it, a label, putting it in a box and going, here, this is something new and flashy. Here, do you want it? But at the end of the day, I've already got that. Okay? I've already got expertise in it. I've already lived it. I've used it in therapy, and I can pull those parts in that I need and package it up and go, here you go. Sell it and then create it later, because I already have that expertise. So I ran recently a 5-6 week course for the travel counsellors. So I'm supporting travel counsellors at the moment. I have been for a number of years, being their dedicated counsellor. And so I ran a 6-week online course. We did some group sessions, and it was education based. So on stress relief, on how to take care of yourself. As you know, the industry has gone bust, right? So taking care of those franchisees and those business owners in those in that industry is absolutely key right now. And so I was able to go, here, this is my course outline for you, without having to develop anything first. So I said, here you go. So we'll cover, things like, how to relax and unwind, how to take better care of yourself. And I'm just rattling some titles off, but essentially it was, how are you going to make sure that you're stable and sane during this time in the unknown. Yeah, stress relief, anxiety relief, caring for other people in the industry as well. So, you know, on that last call, I dealt with managers and those higher tier and the, you know, at the corporate level, who were taking care of the other franchisees and workers, and how, you know, all that kind of, you know, transference that occurs. And yeah, so we did a session there on how to actually put in boundaries. Now, I wouldn't have been able to do that if I had to go ahead and learn that stuff. Yeah, I couldn't put that together. That would just be too far out of my comfort zone, and too much pressure, and I'd probably stuff it up because it's outside of my awareness, outside of my my skill and expertise. So you are able to put a program together very, very quickly when you have all of the moving parts first. Okay, so I hope, Chantal, that's been helpful. And in terms of the modalities, in terms of what you start with and what you wrap up with, you'll know from client experience how that works and how that goes. Okay, so you'll know through experience and seeing the same kind of client over and over again. And this is again why niche is important. Just saying. You'll know what their needs are, and you'll know what comes up next. You'll know what comes up next for them. So when I work with clients with anxiety, they will be focused just on the anxiety. They wake up, they've got anxiety, anxiety, anxiety. That's all they're focused on, right? That's all, it's like blinkers are on. And then when they no longer have anxiety, then it's anxiety about the future. It's like, now that I don't have anxiety, what am I going to do? Right? So it's important then to seed and to coach them on, when you no longer have anxiety, you know, start thinking about what it is that you're going to do and how you're going to live your life. So it's not such a surprise and shock. So when you're building your programs, you need to have you need to have that experience of knowing what the next step is of that client's journey, so that you can make it kind of, so you can prepare them for it. And through knowing that, you will then know what to bring to the table and to bring in terms of that therapeutic process and intervention that's going to help them at that time. Okay, so I hope that's been helpful. So Clive, thank you so much for watching, for being here. And Kirsty, thank you so much for watching. Yeah, so in terms of building your program, make sure that you have all of those techniques that you feel are necessary to what you're specializing in, and get really good at those. And then put a program around that, around what you know the next step is for the client. And so that way it's you're putting together a program not based on what you can do, right? But based on the client's journey of recovery, of healing, of insert your thing here. Okay? Kirsty says, thank you, this was fabulous. Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. So I hope that's helped. We've spoken about you know, programs and what to start with and things like that. And we've also spoken about you know, charging more, you know, and when does it become too much? And my answer is, you know, that is that internal process that you can find out how much is the right amount for you, and also, you know, making sure that when you do charge an amount for your programs, that you are aligned with how much you're charging, and that you can ensure that you are delivering that amount of value to your client. And then we've spoken a bit about what platforms that I use in terms of YouTube, Facebook, very rarely Instagram, sometimes LinkedIn. And in terms of doing stuff like this, in terms of doing lives or uploading videos and things like that, you can do all that from your phone. And it's pretty clear. Like, you can hear me, you can see me. I'm not using an extra microphone, lapel mic or anything. This is all just from my phone. So I trust that's been valuable. And if you've got any more questions, please put them you know, below this, and I'll go back and obviously answer them. And if there's something particular that you really loved, I'd also love to hear from you, because that tells me that I'm on the right track in terms of the content that I'm providing to you and what I'm sharing to you, that's relevant to you right now. So thanks again. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I'll be live again Monday morning. So I'm hoping to make that a regular spot. Until then, have a great weekend. To your, practice success. Take care. Bye for now.